Right.
Where is it?
Can we take roll, please, Mr. Secretary?
Hang on. Oh, somebody already did it. I didn't realize somebody had already started it. Ray Regalado,
Yo.
Chris Valle,
Present.
Melanie Lebrecq,
Here.
and Vic Christensen here. We have a full house of
All
4.
right. Okay. Do we have any general public comment items that we should, anybody out there? Let me see, on non-agenda items, I should say. Let's see. Chris has raised his hand. Chris.
Yeah, I saw your comment about the LA, including the LAFD and the publicity for this town hall thing, but I remember somebody said that they'd been reached out to, but not like contacted yet or something like that. Is that?
No, they came back. They contacted back. It's just not, it's Chief Hall, who we aren't sure exactly who he is, whether or not he is
Okay.
the right person. Ray was going to reach out to Villanueva.
All right. Yeah, so there was, so LAFD it wasn't neglect, it was more of a calculation, although again, I'm not sure exactly what the calculation was, but either way, so, I posted it. We don't have an awful lot of traffic on our Instagram or whatever, but we got a couple of positive, like, LA City Attorney liked the post, and so it's being seen, which is really, the whole point of it. And
Oh,
then
that's good.
yeah, so it's been tweeted out and it's on Facebook and it's on Instagram, so it's out there.
And I shared it in some neighborhood watch groups and stuff too.
Okay, yeah, and we can go through another round in a week or so.
Yeah.
Okay,
That was it.
I will reach out to Ronnie. If that's okay. I don't want to step on anyone's toes. Is that okay?
Yeah. That's what I had asked you to do, that
Right.
him, and I need the email for I'm not gonna say the name because I mess it up. Najee
Oh,
Najee Ali.
Ali.
Yeah.
I need
Gotcha.
an email for him
All right. That's right.
to send him the special invite. I already got a response from Pastor Lisa to attend.
I think now she was participating in that, in the comments of that thing that was posted about one of our CD15 candidates. He was in that thing that you and I were in. I don't know if you want to message him through that or not, but that's one way to reach him. He's on Facebook.
Who?
Najee.
Najee. Yeah.
I'll give him a heads up too. Just,
Yeah, I actually interviewed him a couple of weeks ago at the community meeting in person. The county ran about the car crash thing, and was it Slauson? It was a big
the car crash on Slauson.
somebody had apparently had some kind of mental health episode or whatever, and drove her car at very high speed into a gas station.
Oh, the
Oh,
Slauson
yeah, I
thing.
got you.
Yeah.
Yeah, I got you. Okay.
But there was a big multi-agency county like community meeting there, and I interviewed him there. I had heard his name before, but I didn't realize it. Like, we brought him up later on in the ad hoc discussion. It's like, oh yeah, I just had this guy on camera. So.
He's a resident of San Pedro, right?
I did not realize that, and it was weird. Normally when any two of us are in the room, especially elsewhere in the city, it somehow comes up. But
Yeah. Okay. Well, I'll give him a heads up and I'll get you his contact information. Any other public comment? Any other hands raised? I don't see any, so we'll go ahead and move on to agenda item number 3, and this is looking at items for the agenda. LADWP presentation, is that the one that was kind of left over that didn't happen?
From Gwen, but she
Gwen.
said nothing about it now, still about.
No, I actually told her that, we had made arrangements for that month, her obligation was for that month, and it did not work. So I see your hand, Lori, hang on a second. He did, she, it didn't go through. There was, didn't happen. So I wanted to give any other individual, or an opportunity.
Did that person reach out to us at some point or?
Yeah, they said that they thought that Gwen never told him that it was canceled. She had just initially left the outreach to him initially, and he thought that he was doing it, and then he didn't see it on the calendar.
Right.
So then, yeah. So, and then she got stuck at in Burning Man thing and not able to continue completing the coordination of everything. And so she canceled.
So I think, if we have another if another opportunity, I'll give it to her, but I need kind of a more of a guarantee that it's going to happen. So with that said, presentation wise, can you let Lori speak?
She can talk.
Okay, Lori, does this have to do with presentation by any chance?
Yes, sir, it did. I would never raise my hand at an inappropriate time.
I appreciate that.
No problem. I was wondering because you and I had talked about having Sherry Weaver possibly present, and last I heard you said you told her maybe for the November meeting. So I haven't been in contact with her, but I just was wondering if you had followed up on that.
I had not, only because of the time element. We did kind of just throw it out there in November, and she was open to it. But I kind of wanted to see if there was anything else. We did have an offer from Clearwater to kind of give an update on that project. I had not returned, I hadn't talked to them or anything like that, but they did ask.
Well, if you did consider asking Sherry Weaver again,
Uh-huh.
rather than getting a generic, this is the state of encampments and homelessness stats in San Pedro, I would suggest that we ask for more specific information on most current things, such as, what their concerns might be with the possible release of the eviction moratorium or whatever, or, maybe we prepare some questions ahead of time. If there's specific information that you want to hear. I hear all of it every week. So, I'm up to date, but I'm trying to figure out, what do you think our stakeholders would want to hear if she was reporting? And we did talk to her about getting somebody with lived experience, because at outreach, they did say they had an interest in hearing from somebody who's been able to use the resources to get off the streets.
Well, I certainly would not. I certainly would not invite Sherry and ask her to speak and just kind of leave it up to her. I would want to kind of have that conversation or get some kind of advice from you to help us point out what's the most current and important information at the time, especially maybe even talking a little bit about evictions, talking about the numbers that it came out, how they're seeing it, the need for, I know this was a little bit rough for you, but maybe talk a little bit about what the pros and cons, if you will, for looking at the issue of credit checks, or getting some of our
I actually did talk to Sherry a little bit about that on Saturday at the event, and asked her if there was a way they could track data on how many people with vouchers housing was rejected because of a low credit check. And I sent her an email this morning as follow-up asking, she said maybe there's the way they could track that. I don't know if I want to open that particular can of worms.
Well, you know what, all I'm thinking, and this is kind of like a conversation we can have on the side about what
Okay.
you can ask her, but I wasn't thinking that looking for someone to talk about and try to convince. It's just maybe giving an overview of things that have been discussed and how they are faring out, with general population, general public.
Sure.
Not necessarily, making it so that if there are people with unfounded concerns, like, well, whatever it might be, she might be able to address that.
Well, Ray, maybe it's more, what obstacles or barriers are you finding? You have emergency housing vouchers. What barriers are stopping you from being able to house people? But I really wanted to focus on somebody, because Chris was there at the outreach meeting, and they wanted to hear something positive. How is a program help somebody? And Sherry has usually several success stories. So I definitely want that to be in the equation if she's speaking.
Okay, well, like I said, we can kind of map out what is important.
Okay.
And then
Well, you have to find out if she's even available first.
Oh, absolutely, yeah. But I'm just glad that you're on board to help map out what.
Yeah, if you don't have another presentation, then I think maybe together you and I could coordinate reaching out to her. How does the rest of the executive board feel about getting the presentation to be sort of an update
For this meeting or for November?
November.
for November?
I think November would be a good month because November is about Thanksgiving and giving, and it's a giving month usually, and it's a charity month. And so I think November would be a good time to focus on things like that.
Okay, that's actually an excellent point. Are there any other, so you don't really have a presentation for October, then I would suggest you take Clearwater.
I'll reach out to, if the other people,
Yeah, I agree. I'd like to have an update on
Fine,
that,
but-
actually.
if you're okay with it, then I'll do a quick outreach, so,
That's Glenn Acosta.
I'll check with the, and Cinnamon says hi. I'll check with Clearwater.
Hey, Cinnamon.
Is that okay with you guys?
Yeah, that sounds good.
Okay,
Update.
I'll check with them tomorrow, Victor, and hopefully I'll have some kind of feedback, and so that we can either know or one way or another. Sound good to you guys?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay, good. All right, then that'll happen. So approve stakeholder minutes on consent calendar. I'd love to be able to do that. That's great, thank you. Okay with that, anyone? Any concern, any question? And Lori, are you inappropriately raising your hand again, or is that just a leftover from the last?
It's
I
left.
forgot to lower it. Excuse me, sir.
Please don't let that happen.
boo.
Now I'm only raising one finger.
And thank you for that too, by the way.
I think maybe we should mute you now. Permanently.
Okay, so approved Twitter account administrator on the consent. I
Yeah,
agree.
that's just the straggler from when we did the account administrators last month, but we didn't have access to the Twitter account at that time. We since have gotten access thanks to Ron DeAngelo. He gave me the information to get in, and so what this will be is just the same type of list as last time, except it'll just have Chris and Christina as Twitter account administrators, and that's it.
Okay, Chris, you're good with that?
Shouldn't be any big deal.
That's, whoops, I turned the camera off. Yeah, that's fine. We've actually already started using it.
Okay, cool.
Yeah,
All
this is just to make it official because of the, digital communication policy.
Right.
All right, and Cynthia to issues, yes, she left me a message, I think it was last week about this. I think it
Yeah,
was-
and that was voted on at the committee meeting and unanimously approved, so.
Good, okay.
that would be out of committee even if it gets pulled.
Okay. MER and budget, Melanie, you're,
Yeah, the
You're-
MER
okay.
we won't have, so it's gonna have to be like a motion in a second.
okay,
Because our meeting's on the 4th, so it won't be generated by then.
okay.
And
So-
so the budget will be updated. We have 4 requests for money. So we've got the $300 from public safety for a minute taker and for print materials.
Mhm.
Got $500 for the parade, $1,200 for Candy Cane Lane, 200s for craft, 1,000 for the sponsorship. And then we've got $450 to for the newsletter to make the funds accessible for the newsletter to be done.
Okay.
For newsletter number 1.
The money, the money for Candy Cane Lane,
Mhm.
maybe,
1,000 and then 200 for crafts.
well, I was gonna suggest maybe, we could give away toothbrushes because, dental care is really important. Anyway, next,
Yeah, and all those will come out of budget and finance on the 4th.
okay,
I'll send all the motions. Lori?
As I mentioned to Melanie that we realized since our last newsletter, postage has gone up. Also, I was advised over the weekend that the routes with USPS have changed. So I emailed Ken Perry, our person, to tell us how the routes changed. Does that change the number of issues we're printing? We may have to make a decision because parts of it, cross over to Central. And then make a determination there. And so we may have to amend the amount. He's on vacation this week.
Yeah,
So we
if
want-
it's less money, we're fine. If it's not, what we can do, Lori, is approve the use, like I said, now for what
Right.
we've already allocated. And then if it comes and we're working on, you guys work on the newsletter and get it ready to go. And even if we don't know until the end that it costs more, we just make a motion to increase the amount so we can pay the printing or
Okay,
what.
I get that. I
No
just
big
feel
deal.
it's transparent to give everybody a heads up. So they don't
Yeah.
come back later and say, well, I didn't know it was gonna cost
Yeah.
$200 more. And the printing cost, of course, if there's more issues, might go up slightly too. So what we might have, outreach may have to look at the quote we get from Ken Perry and decide what parts of routes we want to do. So anyway, I'm just trying to make sure everybody knows what's going on.
Right, and
that.
I do have a buffer of about $400 and change in
Okay,
that newsletter always that gets flipped over.
A-
Just
and if-
because we have these fluctuation of postage
Okay.
all the time.
and I'm sure Chris is probably going to include this in the outreach report that he's submitting to go with the packet. But the point of us trying to have a newsletter go out around December time, 2 main driving issues, one being call for candidates, which Ray, I'm waiting for, Diana didn't know either. When actually they're going to announce that, we want to give people plenty of time. And the second main driver is hopefully by then we'll know what the status is of what the rules are on eviction moratoriums. And then, of course, we'll include hopefully updated things on programs in Northwest, park programs, things like that, regular newsletter.
okay. Yeah, we're having an elections and bylaws meeting on Thursday for anyone who may want to just jump in at 8:30 in the morning, 10. Just for your information. Okay. Anything else on budget and finance?
No, we're good. Oh, the other thing, I emailed Shauna and asked her what the status was on our rollover funds. And her response to me was that the controller had not completed doing the, all the audits of all the neighborhood councils and wasn't sure when it was going to be done, and that they would not release the funds until it was done, and she would let us know when the funds were available.
Isn't there supposed to be a time frame? If
usually
we've
is
done everything we're supposed to do?
September. That's what her email
I'd
said.
like to report that to a bond commissioner, Mr. Regalado. No, I'm not being flippant. I mean, seriously,
Oh,
if there's neighborhood councils who need their
September,
funds,
we would be notified. And
yeah, that's
so
not
I
right.
emailed her and asked her why we aren't seeing the note, and she basically, how do I minimize this? I'll minimize it. There we go. I want to see here.
While you're doing that, another question I had was, if they're not done auditing all of them, what's the problem with, releasing the money for the ones they have audited?
Okay, so here it is. I wrote, Shauna, when will the NC's rollover money be put into our accounts and the statement sent to our NC? Thank you, Melanie. And that was on Thursday, the 29th of September. She said, hi, Melanie. I currently do not have a timeline. The year-end report is still under review by the city controller's office. We will send a communication to the NCs once the report has been finalized. Best, Shauna. Yep. So that was her response.
How much money are we talking about for us? That's
Huh?
sitting there in limbo. How much-
Almost $8,000.
If I were to, if Bonk were to get an inquiry from a neighborhood council regarding it, if there was a timeline, then I think it would be easier to be able to ask the question or agenda it for our next Bonk meeting.
Okay. So should I send it out of budget and finance?
If a neighborhood council were to ask the question,
So maybe budget and finance is going to ask this question of Bonk.
I'm having problems with my sound.
Okay.
I know your lips are moving, but I can't hear.
Okay.
So,
Alrighty.
all right. The non-governmental and UC, we have someone for our UC. We got to put that on the agenda. Make sure that gets an agenda for approval for our year.
Already there.
And
Okay, Victor, you have his name?
Yeah, I saw it on the agenda
Oh,
already.
okay. Where is it?
Ben Norman to Northwest as youth rep.
Okay, perfect.
The very first item. That's why I went to the committee meeting.
and
Thank you.
as far as our non-governmental vacancy, I guess we've been kind of informally, we said that it'll be posted indefinitely, but I think we should make it official until we get a candidate. Does that make sense?
Well, to a point, because once it gets within 60 days of the election, there
The new
cannot be any election for the vacancy.
Right. So I'm taking thoughts from you all of how you want to do it. I mean, we could just go with the vacancy.
We
Until
could
then.
just, what we could do is wait and see. And if it doesn't get filled once it hits the 60, then we just pull it and it's just part of the election then.
Or we could just, whatever efforts we make between now and then, just include that this seat will be open until, whatever we figure out what the date 60 days out is, just, publicize that.
Yeah, since February's short, I am pulling up a calendar to see what 60 days is. But yeah, if we want to agree on just putting the deadline as whatever that 60-day point is. Well, but then the election can't be within that. So
Probably.
we'll
January.
have to figure out a deadline to where we would still have time to
Oh,
have
we-
some kind of vote.
Yeah,
within-
we'd have to approve them. So, well, we could,
Right.
whatever the next board meeting is before that 60 days.
Yeah,
January.
Well, it's kind of crazy that if you get somebody by the time you seat them, well, I guess with the new board, it won't be elected till April 1st. Maybe, yeah, why don't you put it like end of November and then you revisit it if you don't have any candidates? And Ray, I wasn't sure, did you have on the agenda to swear in Ben Norman? Did it show that, Victor?
I don't think so.
Okay, so that should be at the top of the agenda to swear him in right away so that.
Well, actually, the last time we did it with Alec, we had it just like it is now on the consent calendar. And then I already notified Octaviano.
Doesn't it have to say though, Victor, that we're gonna swear him in? There has to be a spot on the agenda to do that,
Yeah,
not.
exactly.
Well, there wasn't before, but
There should be.
we can.
Just so that everyone's aware, if we put something on the agenda to swear in, then we gotta take public comment. I'm not
And
sure.
we would also have pretty much have to take it out of consent calendar.
So then can you put it right after the consent calendar then? So, but then he's not gonna be a board member for the first part of the meeting. Maybe you should take Ben off of the consent calendar and put it at the beginning by itself so that you can have the opportunity to swear him in. That would be my suggestion.
And,
Right
and-
after the
and
presentation.
we've had this discussion before. The reason that in a way doesn't really make sense is there's nothing to vote on. So he's not missing out on anything vote wise because all of the stuff to vote on happens after the consent calendar.
Well, and it involves finances and he's not had his training yet anyway.
He can't do finances anyway. He's not 18.
Right.
I'm saying, I think it's a much more welcoming, okay, whether he's voting on anything or not. When it's a regular board member, we always do it first thing. I think we should do it for this too. Plus, if you have it on the consent calendar, sometimes some of the board members want to ask the new candidate a couple of questions to get to know him better. And if it's on consent calendar, you've taken away the ability to do that.
Then somebody can pull it if they want to ask questions.
Ray, your call.
I
Thinking,
agree with Lori, though. I think it should be treated as the same way that other elections are treated, to kind of give him that, because he gets to vote and stuff like that once he's on a position. So
you
treat
know-
it like you're filling a regular position. So that shouldn't be a consent calendar thing. It should be a thing by itself.
Yeah, historically, we have had a separate issue, a separate thing, and I think just as a welcoming thing, I think probably throwing him up on the top, giving him, that's like first order of business, so he can be a part of the council right off the bat. So, Vic, if you don't mind, maybe we should do it up front, and then we could welcome him officially, and then we will do the swearing in at that point too, and then we I think it's much more welcoming. Hopefully, we don't get the naysayers to say something ridiculous about it.
Well, I was gonna say the only thing is there's no guarantee. Technically, there's no guarantee that he is going to be appointed. So
It's
If he's
never
not-
happened, Victor.
Yeah,
It's never happened that we didn't vote in who the
Yeah.
youth and outreach. person-
notice I said technically.
Okay.
either
So
way,
I doubt it would happen either, especially when it was unanimous at the committee level. But
Yeah.
technically, it could happen. And there we go. And like Ray said, so, somebody can come make comments and stuff like that. And I guess we can say
I wouldn't put if appointed, just put, because that's just inviting like negativity if you put if.
Once appointed.
And,
That's a good
okay,
one.
yeah, that's
Once
better.
approved. Yeah,
Okay,
Thank you for that. Good, good,
Thanks, Vic.
good, President,
I mean,
conversation.
I know in the past it's been at both places, a separate issue and on consent calendar. So
yeah.
for expediency, I was thinking consent calendar, but
That makes sense too, Vic. But I think Melanie's point well taken, that I think it'd be a more welcoming thing, doing it up front.
okay,
Thank you for your
so,
concern for expediency.
okay. So let's see, I think we were pretty much done looking at almost done looking at the list on
Um,
here.
Vic, on public safety too, we want to make sure that this time that we have the town hall, an update on it so everybody knows. So I can put in there what date it is, you know, and all of that, who's coming.
You mean
know-
that?
Oh, okay, thank you.
What I
Same,
like about Vic.
that's a duplicate of,
Yeah,
I believe that's a duplicate of last month's
okay.
line item. And then we
Okay.
also have that one. So
Well,
we
You
can,
you don't need to put use seat because that'll be filled, I guess.
Yeah,
And
well,
then-
I thought about taking it out and then I figured, well, we can just bypass it if everything goes as planned.
I put just status of vacancy for the non-government seat.
Okay. There we go.
Okay, so. Back
Now,
to-
the only thing is, and I don't think that we have anything that's worth bringing up at this meeting, is the digital communication policy.
Right,
At this point, we've got the only thing that directly applies to that is the Twitter account administrator.
Yeah,
I don't think there's anything that we're ready to
No,
bring up at the next one.
right.
So I don't think it's worth putting that, and I didn't put it on the
Okay,
agenda, but I didn't know if anybody else had any thoughts about that.
mm-mm.
no, I agree.
I think we're fine as long as we've taken care of the administration of our accounts and stuff and fixed all that.
Well, I think there may be some other things, but we need to look in more detail.
Exactly.
But the only motions I've received anything about so far are the usual budget ones. And then Diana said that this letter in support of Nico's could, and I haven't seen the letter, so I don't know what it says, but it sounds like it's supporting their being allowed to
Sell beer and wine.
sell beer and wine is by the wording of it. She suggested that go on the consent calendar, so we can do that, or we can move it into the regular motions area.
I agree that it'd just be easier to put it on the consent calendar. I was at the planning and land use meeting, and that's what it is the beer and wine license.
Okay,
I don't think anybody'd be opposed to them having one. All the other restaurants do down there.
Anything to speed up the meeting, if we can get away with it on the consent calendar, do it.
yeah, since you mentioned that, we can move something back on now.
Just for clarification for me too, I think I'll be all right, but I'm not sure. It just depends on how slow USC is because they make me sit for an hour. I'm going to get my
Oh.
Evishield injections the day of the meeting, and my appointment that they gave me, they don't give them until 3, and my appointment's at 3. And so as long as I get in right away, I have to sit for an hour, so I know I won't be leaving there until 4 at the earliest, after sitting for an hour, to make sure I don't have a reaction. So hopefully in traffic, I'll get home by 6 for the meeting.
When you say UCLA, I mean, are you literally
Or USC.
USC? Okay,
Yeah, it's all the way at Keck. It's over Boyle Heights.
okay.
So to get from Boyle Heights home
Yeah,
on the 10 and the 110 at
you-
4,
you use-
4:30.
You use the 10 or the 5 to get there?
I don't know. Ted's driving me, so,
So
but
if,
hopefully traffic won't be too bad. We can get the carpool lane and get home pretty quickly, hopefully.
so if you're not back by the time we get to that, then we can just delay it, or,
Well, what I can do is I can be on my phone. The only
oh,
thing
that's right,
is
you're not driving.
I'm not driving. So I'm gonna sign in on my phone if it gets close to time and I'm not home yet. But the problem is I won't be able to share the screen. 1, if I'm not home, and number 2, taking the vote is gonna be difficult because somebody needs to take
We can do that.
to tell me who voted what, because I have to submit that.
I take the
on a
vote
vote
even,
count
I
sheet.
mark them down even when you do it, so.
Okay, because I need exactly who voted what and who was absent, who, whatever, so I can make up the vote count sheet that John and I both signed.
Right,
And that has to go with each motion has to have one.
yeah, we can do the sharing and vote taking.
Okay.
All right. Anything else? I think for the other committees, if there's anything else, then to submit, give them your deadline and no wavering on the deadline.
Well, they know the deadline. If they don't get it to me by Thursday, it doesn't go on.
I know.
So I don't, I'm not, none of our job descriptions have the word babysitter in it. So,
Yeah.
if
And
they
everybody
don't,
knows,
if,
everybody knows that we're meeting tomorrow for budget and finance. So I got Chris's motions for outreach and nobody else has sent me anything. So
this is where the cliche, you snooze, you lose comes in.
So Ray, what I did, because it's my understanding, and tell me, I'm pretty sure I did this right, is an ad hoc committee isn't a standing committee, so it cannot make financial requests. And so what I did is have the ad hoc committee send it to public safety, and then public safety made the financial requests to budget and finance.
That sounds fair.
And made a lot of steps to do.
That, I won't argue that.
So I'm just trying to cover my bases here.
Okay, cool. All right, anything else, anyone?
Nothing I can think of. The rest is pretty much standard.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Okay, I hear Chris saying yes, Victor saying yes, Melanie saying yes, that we're through, it sounds like.
think so.
Yep.
Then without objection, I'll say that we are adjourned and we'll move on.
Okay, sounds good.
Okay.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you very
Some
much.
of you tomorrow.
Next,
All right.
Bruce Hornsby next week.
All righty.
See you later.
Bye.
Bye, guys.
Bye.
Bye.